All right, let's talk about one of those topics on the LECPA that can really trip people up: joint costing. It looks intimidating, I know, but trust me, it's just about following one simple story from start to finish. In the next few minutes, we're going to crack this code, so you don't just memorize it, you actually get it for good. Okay, to kick things off, let's start with a kind of random question. You've got raw milk, crude oil, and big timber logs. From an accounting standpoint, what's the one thing that ties all of them together? And the answer is they all start as one single thing, go through one single process, and then bam, they split into a bunch of different products. You pour raw milk in one end, and you get cream and skim milk out the other. That single journey is the entire foundation of joint costing. So, I want you to burn this image into your brain. This little diary process is going to be our roadmap for everything. Seriously, if you can picture this flow from left to right, every single key term we talk about will just click into place. It's way better than trying to memorize a list of definitions. So, let's start at the very beginning of the journey. We're spending money, right? We're buying the milk, paying for the factory, paying the workers. But what's the official name for all those costs while everything is still mixed together in one big batch? They're called joint costs, and a key word is joint. Think of it like a group project. In the beginning, all the work is just thrown into the pot. You can't really say, my effort went to that sentence and your effort went to this one. It's all one big, indivisible cost pool. And if we look back at our diagram, it's crystal clear. See that processing box on the left? Every single cost that happens in there, the whole $400,000 in this example, that's your joint cost. It's one big bucket of expenses before anything splits. Okay, now for the most critical moment in this entire story, the magic point where our one stream becomes two different things. There is a very specific name for this, and you absolutely positively have to know it. It's called the split-off point. And the name totally gives it away, right? It's the exact point where the products literally split off from each other. One second, you have processed milk. The next second, you can point and say, that's cream and that's skim milk. They're now separately identifiable. But, the story doesn't have to end there. We can take that cream and decide to process it even further to make butter. And we can take the skim milk and turn it into condensed milk. Of course, doing that extra work is going to cost more money. And we call these new costs separable costs. Again, the name is a huge clue. They're separable because we can now easily trace them to one specific product. That $280,000 it costs to make butter, that cost belongs only to the butter. It has nothing to do with the skim milk path. Okay, so now we have all these things we've made. How do we label them? It's pretty simple, actually. It all comes down to their sales value, how much money they can make. If you get a couple of high-value products, we call them joint products. But if one product is clearly the superstar, that's the main product. And the less valuable stuff that comes along for the ride are called byproducts. Now, here's a quick one that could save you some easy points on the exam. Don't mix up byproducts and scrap. A byproduct has a low value, but it's a real usable thing. Scrap is basically just the leftovers. Think sawdust from cutting wood. It has a tiny bit of value, but you just sell it as is. Okay, everyone lean in for this one. This is a classic exam trap. Joint costs and common costs are not the same thing. Joint costs come from one single indivisible process. Common costs are when different, unrelated processes just happen to share a resource. Like if a dairy and a bakery share one big factory building, the rent is a common cost. The dairy and the bakery are totally separate operations. So, LECPA alert. I guarantee you'll see this. Here's the mental shortcut. Is it one process creating multiple things? That's joint. Is it multiple different processes sharing one resource? That's common. Lock that distinction in your brain. All right, let's do a super fast bullet review to make sure this sticks. Part 1, the process terms. Costs before the split. Joint costs. The exact moment of the split. Split off point. And all the costs after the split, separable costs. Before, during, and after. Got it? And now, the outputs. Again, it's all about the money. The high-value stuff, joint products. The low-value stuff, byproducts. And the stuff that's barely worth anything, that's scrap. It's just a simple ladder based on sales value. But here's a really cool thing to remember. These labels aren't permanent. Markets change. Get this, back in the day when oil was first being refined, gasoline was a useless, low-value byproduct. The main product everyone wanted was kerosene for their lamps. Then the car was invented and, Well, you know how that turned out. Okay, so you've completely nailed the vocabulary. You can identify every piece of this puzzle. But the real accounting question is still hanging out there. How do we take that big $400,000 pot of joint costs and fairly divide it up between the cream and the skim milk? And figuring that out, the actual allocation, is the next huge piece of the puzzle. In our next explainer, we're going to dive into the different methods for doing the math. So make sure you've got these terms down cold, and we'll see you there to tackle the numbers.